Sunday morning online spiritual experience. We are delighted that you have joined us today for this time of mindful meditation, contemplation, affirmations, prayer, and music. Unity is a positive path for spiritual living. We offer a unique approach to spirituality. We are love-based and all-inclusive. We embrace an open heart and an open mind. We are spiritual, not religious. Unity is a blending of Western theology, Eastern philosophy, science transcendentalism, and the power of prayer through positive thinking and affirmations. We offer spiritual teachings that provide practical tools for meaningful and abundant living. As an interspiritual community and divine love in expression, we draw from and honor all paths to spirit. We envision a spiritually transformed, peaceful world. Though we have no dogma, we do have 5 principles that formulate our philosophy. Our foundational belief is that all is one, and our fundamental practice is living in the present moment. Once again, welcome. Today's announcements are that here we are again, back strictly online. We did not expect this when we started almost 3 months ago, but there has been a turn in events, outer events, and the board, and I agree, and so did the congregation, that we are better served to, let's just put it this way, when there's a storm outside, the wise thing to do is to stay inside. So that's what we're doing right now, and we're going back to online for, I would say, realistically, maybe 6 weeks, because that is the time that it takes for the new people that are getting vaccinated to have complete immunity, and then now some of the boosters are starting to take place and stuff. So I expect something like maybe the beginning of October when hopefully our winter Texan friends come back. Maybe by then we'll be open again. But that's right now what it's looking like. Anyway, that's pretty much the announcement for now. Let's begin with these words, this prayer, this affirmation, affirming positive words about healing, because there is a lot of outer appearance that needs to be healed. And whenever we experience an outer circumstance inconsistent with divine spirit, we turn our focus within and remind ourselves that illness is not part of our true identity. We are reminded that wholeness is our birthright as spiritual beings. We surrender anxiety as we fill our consciousness with healing energy and healing thoughts for all. My mind's eye see every cell of every person aglow with the energy of divine life. And I invite you to share in that vision. We give thanks for the healing that is continuously manifesting in us all. And we affirm that we take the required steps to express and to help Spirit's healing energy here on earth. And we do that which is ours to do. We are reminded of the old saying that God helps those who help themselves. We do the work of Spirit in any way and in every way that we can. And so it is.
Spirit, I walk in the Holy talking to Holy Spirit when I talk. When I talk, I'm talking to Spirit. I'm talking to Holy Spirit when I talk. When I move in the Spirit. I move in the Holy Spirit when I move. When I move in the Spirit. I move in the Holy Spirit when I move. When I pray in the Spirit. I pray in the Holy Spirit when I pray. When I pray in the Spirit. I pray in the Holy Spirit when I pray. When I pray. When I pray.
Join me now in Unity Statement of Being, which is shared throughout all the Unity centers around the world. There is only one presence and one power active in the universe and in my life, God the good, omnipotent.
In this moment, in this place, I remember who I am. Letting fear and worry fall away from me. I open my eyes and see there is only love. There is only love. Love that heals, love that sets us free. There is only love. When I lose myself, when it seems I've lost my way, when I go inside and quiet my mind, I can hear Spirit gently say, there is only love. There is only love. Love that heals, love that sets us free. There is only love.
Unity teaches that we humans have 12 inherent spiritual powers or abilities or faculties, or however you want to see them, that comprise and reflect our divine nature. They are love, imagination, power, judgment, understanding, zeal, illumination, faith, life, order, will, and strength. And we started this when we came back to live, and today's the 12th one, and today's power is strength. Strength, also called stability or steadfastness, is an idea of enduring power, which means that it continues and sustains this energy that creates everything and manifests everything. It is always moving forward, it is always expanding. And this strength is not a reference to a physical type of strength. It is a mental and a spiritual type of a strength. And the highest expression, our metaphysics book says, of strength is non-resistance. That's right. But that does not mean non-action. It means an effective, calm, divine-centered attitude of mind. So now we affirm our power of strength. I claim my power of strength. I stay the course based on divine ideas despite outer appearances. Another thing that we implemented when we came back to live was having a time of gratitude during the service. Because one of the things that we want to do at Unity is to establish practices in your life. We want, like meditation, like affirmations, like gratitude. And so we've taken this time. And so I'm going to invite you now, just real briefly, to take a deep breath and just maybe close your eyes if you're comfortable with that. And just bring something into your heart space here, that person, a pet, anything that brings you joy and that you are so grateful for. And just hold it in your heart space. And just think about how grateful you are to have that person, that pet, that experience, that job, whatever it may be in your life. And we just take a couple of moments to express that gratitude. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful for all that I have. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful. I am so blessed. And so it is.
As we start this time of inner reflection, let's begin by getting comfortable. Remove all objects from your lap. Place your feet on the floor and sit up comfortably in your chair. Relax the muscles in your face, shoulders, arms, hands, and fingers. Feel your hips, legs, feet, and toes relax as well. Release any areas of tension you feel in your body. Take a deep, centering breath. Slowly inhale, gently hold for a few seconds, and then calmly exhale. Repeat a few times. Focus on your inhalation and exhalation as you continue to relax your body. Gently breathe in and out. Just relax and breathe naturally. You now feel the increased sense of relaxation to your body with every breath. Feel calmness and peace wash over you. Now let's center our attention to the daily word for today, which is inspiration. Our Bible verse is from Job 32:8 and reads, "But truly it is the spirit and immortal, the breath of the Almighty that makes for understanding." Today's affirmation is, I move in harmony with the creative flow of inspiration. Let's say that together once. I move in harmony with the creative flow of inspiration. Our message reads, sometimes I feel inspired by the words of others, and sometimes I'm inspired more by action. Today I take my inspiration from the story of Charles Fillmore, a businessman who marveled at his wife's complete healing from serious illness. This prompted him to embark upon an intense period of prayer, meditation, and study that led to the founding in 1889 of Unity, which has become a global spiritual community. I take this story to heart and find my inspiration in my feelings of awe and wonder, love, or even healthy curiosity. Feeling an awakening of inspiration within me, I center my awareness in God. Divinely inspired, I move in harmony with the creative flow that blesses the work of my mind, my heart, and my hands. Now let's close our eyes and take these words and this affirmation into the silence.
I love the silence down in my soul. I love the silence down in my soul. I love the silence down in my soul. And the whole wide world is my home. I've got a new day down in my soul. I've got a new day down in my soul. I've got a new day down in my soul. And the whole wide world is my home.
Earlier, I said that unity is a positive path for spiritual living. So we always try to find the positive in things. And even this, even closing back up again. But let me tell you what the positive is about that, is that we have a rotational speaker schedule that we use, and people really enjoy it because it gives you different perspectives of things. But we haven't been using it much lately because a lot of people, some of our speakers are not from this area. And so traveling was really not something that they wanted to do. But now that we're back online, that opens up the opportunity once again. And we're going to have 2 or 3 in the next month or so come along and help us to bring them back into the circle again. And this week's guest speaker is Jennifer Birdie Shawker. So welcome to Jennifer Birdie this week.
Good morning, Unity of the Rio Grande Valley. I am so happy to be with you again. I feel sad that it can't be in person, but before we get started, I just want to let you all know I have a lot of respect and appreciation for the decision that you have made to meet online. The situation in the hospitals is just beyond stretched right now, and I appreciate your support of health providers everywhere trying to stem the tide of this a little bit. So, time passages. Let's explore time today. I'm going to do a little bit of recent history and then look at my personal history and also look at some unity history. When the pandemic first started happening in 2020, like a lot of people, I was digging for resources. Just, okay, how can I get through this? And I tried to think of something I had gone through in my lifetime that I could draw upon to help get through this, and I couldn't think of anything. But this lady over here, I knew. Her name is Thelma. She is my great-grandmother. And she survived the pandemic of 1918, and she was also alive during the time of the polio pandemic. So I would pass by that picture of my grandmother in my room, and I would look at her picture because she was really important in my faith formation. This is the lady who taught me how to pray when I was 5 years old. So I would look at that picture of her and I would say, well, Thelma, Grandma, you made it through those dark times. How did you do it? What's the secret sauce? And this led me into this really deep dive into history, and I'm not that much of a history buff, but I went on like this month-long journey of research, really to see if there was something in the past, particularly in our unity past, that could help sustain us. Because really, Thelma could have easily been a contemporary of one of the co-founders of our movement, Myrtle Fillmore. What she had in common with her is that she was well educated and was a school teacher. And Myrtle was a school teacher for a time. So on my journey, I'm not going to get in too deep in the weeds, but overall in history, during the Spanish flu pandemic, there were the same things going on as there is now, maybe with the exception of controversy over vaccines. Unfortunately, there was no vaccine for the flu at the time, but there were controversies over masks and lockdowns and canceled events, hospitals and mortuaries completely overwhelmed, and various townships, communities of faith, taking different approaches that they deemed best to work with the situation, and those interventions varied widely, as did the results. Some of the headlines I read from the press in those times truly echoes today's. And those charts and graphs that we are so familiar with when we go and look up, the rates of COVID in the United States and other places were there too, although the charts from 1918 were, of course, more rudimentary. Churches and individual clergy members varied in their reactions to state mandates, and some of them were real compliant and some of them weren't. A common sentiment in spiritual circles, not just unity, is that public prayer and worship would strengthen the morale and therefore physical health of people. And then other churches were like, well, if it's for the best, we won't meet. Most denominations that complied with the closures had at least one renegade pastor that opened their church doors anyway. There was only one exception I could find, and it's our cousins in Christian Science. They're all, Christian Science is in that overarching category of New Thought, which unity belongs into us, and Christian Science fully complied with any city laws or government advisories. The Spanish flu, by the time it was complete, affected 1/3 of the world's population and decreased the average life expectancy by 12 years. And I learned that the peak was in October and November of 1918, and that helped me narrow down my search as to what was going on at Unity at the time. Living in Texas, I don't have access to all of Unity's archives, but I have access online, as do you, my friend, to truthunity.net, which does, in its archives, have issues of Unity magazine from 1918. So I chose to take a dive into the November 1918 issue of Unity magazine. And there was actually an article by Charles Fillmore, and you might think, oh, the Fillmores probably wrote for every issue. Well, I looked back in other issues. The Fillmores didn't write an article for every single issue of, Unity magazine that there ever was. In 1918, it looks like it was the exception rather than the norm. So that kind of heightened my attention, right? And later on in this talk, I am going to share with you a synopsis of this article that Charles Fillmore wrote, because I think it's really relevant. He didn't specifically cite the pandemic, but when I read it and listen to it, it sounds like he might be giving us some guidance, in that area. Now, before I tell you all of that, I just want to let you know, I didn't go on this historical journey alone. What I wanted to bring to people was this historical representation of what Charles Fillmore said in kind of a relatable and modern way. Well, to look into the words of Charles Fillmore and try to interpret them by myself seemed like a huge endeavor, right? So I reached out to Reverend J. Mulkey, Reverend Tommy De Leon, and Jimmy Scott for help. And I would send them the article and say, do you think he's saying this? You know, so I had a lot of help, and I just want to thank people for that. So what was going on in Unity at the time? Well, no one magazine can give us a full picture. But the first thing I noticed is that Unity was involved in supporting the troops overseas during the war that was going on in 1918. You could put a 1-cent stamp on the magazine and put it in the mail when you were done reading it, and it was sent to a soldier on the front lines. I thought that was really cool. There wasn't any Unity Village yet. Unity headquarters was located at the time on 10th and Tracy Avenues in Kansas City, Missouri. And so when I first skimmed this particular issue of Unity magazine, I wanted to see if there was an actual reference to the Spanish flu or a pandemic anywhere. And to my great surprise, there was. There was actually an editorial piece with no author named that stressed the importance of us being able to gather together. And that's true, we're social creatures. It's hard on us when we can't gather together in community. I'd like to think, had the technology been available at that time, maybe that editorial wouldn't have been necessary. I mean, Charles Fillmore wrote the book, The Atom-Smashing Power of the Mind, when the concept of an atom was still really relatively new. He embraced science, and I'm sure he would have embraced a new technology. Also in this book, it was so interesting because in the back of the magazine, there was a list of new Unity centers being created and meeting. And that was a really pretty extensive list. So it sounds like to me our movement was in the same boat as every other faith tradition in that time and in this time, trying to make the best decisions, right? So finally I go back and I start reading this article by Charles Fillmore. It was entitled The Creative Law. It was 10 pages long. 10 pages long. This is why it took me a month to put this information together in the brief form that it is for you today. Now, why would he write an article called The Creative Law in the middle of the pandemic? Well, he could do it for any number of reasons. Personally, I think, we have this concept in Unity that is sometimes misunderstood or maybe isn't even fully understood at this time. That is that our thoughts have creative power, that our thoughts, feelings, and ideas frame our experience of the world. So why an experience of a pandemic? And I'm sure there's probably people out there that have had the same thoughts as me. I can't be the only one asking this question. And for some of us, perhaps our theology has been challenged. It's similar to asking the question, why do bad things happen to good people? And please let me reassure you right now, I don't think that asking such questions, and I've asked those questions myself, I don't think it's a demonstration of less faith or a lack of faith. These questions arise when we're feeling pain. So let's take good care of ourselves and those we know asking those questions, because they're evidence that we're hurting. They're not evidence we lack faith. So we stand on the back of spiritual giants in this movement. I don't know if this particular 10-page article from Unity magazine has all the answers, but I do know this: what they have accomplished, so can we. We have the secret sauce, and we naturally inherit it by divine right and through the courage of our ancestors. Keep in mind that following the Spanish flu pandemic, Unity went into this hugely prosperous time. Unity Village came about, and Silent Unity expanded into this huge worldwide ministry that it is today. So, all right, let's dive into this. In the beginning of the article, Charles Fillmore establishes that there's not a whole bunch of minds out there, but one mind, right? Divine mind. So there's a lot of thinkings about this one mind in unity, but a good general understanding that I've heard and kind of adhere to myself is that, we're not separate from this mind. We're extensions and expressions of this. And there's a lot of names for the one mind, including God, the source, spirit, or oneness. So Charles Fillmore goes on to explain, listen, we're not separate from this source, but there are two aspects of it, what is seen and what is unseen. Both comprise the fullness of life. We're fully human, we're fully divine. There's not these two separate things. The fullness of life is absolutely seamless. And in the fullness of life, Charles Fillmore wrote, problems arise. Sometimes we take one step forward and two steps back, and this can be frustrating and hard. But what Charles Fillmore stressed in the article is that these difficult scenarios do ultimately lead to our fulfillment. This was a very interesting part. He went into detail about judgment, and he advised that when a problem arises, it's really smart to take a slow, methodical approach to solving it using the spiritual power we have of judgment. He writes, don't jump to conclusions. Study the situation carefully before you decide. Look at both sides, the visible and invisible, the seen and the unseen before you decide. And when I read this time around, something came to me. We're making a lot of decisions right now. Do I wear a mask? Do I get a vaccine? And it is important to look at what's seen and unseen. And generally when we talk about the unseen, we're talking about the spiritual experience. But what is unseen to the vast majority of people right now is what's going on in hospitals, because we have to limit visitors. And some people don't trust or even want to engage with the press. That's cool. If that's you, I'm offering you something. If you are wondering what is going on in the hospital right now, how many of the patients are vaccinated, how aren't, reach out to Reverend Tommy, who will reach out to me. He'll give you my email address, and you can reach me with your questions. Now, if you're going to reach out to me and tell me all the reasons you can't wear a mask and all the reasons you can't get vaccinated, and there are some people who can't get vaccinated, don't bother. Reach out to me if you're willing to listen and really know what is going on in this seen yet unseen experience here on planet Earth. Okay, back to the article. Charles Fillmore pointed out that in unity we tend to focus on what is unseen, that which is whole and complete and unchanging and good. And Charles Fillmore referred to this as an ideal world. But here's the deal. In being co-creators with the one mind, we can't dodge how creation is expressed. As long as we interact with this world that we see, we are recognizing expression and cannot deny its experience. To deny the experience of what we might call bad thing, what we see in our world, such as lack and sorrow and illness and suffering, this sets us up for this conflicted inner state and creates a sense of separation. That's not me saying that, that's what Charlie said, okay, Papa Charlie. So Charles Fillmore says, as Papa Charlie, that when we impose this conflicted state upon ourselves, a reconciliation of the two needs to take place. He said Jesus never denied the existence of his body. And I might say he never denied the existence of suffering or sorrow, for that matter, in the scriptures. One might view, this is this amazing observation that Charles Fillmore made, one might view his entire ministry as one step after another towards this reconciliation of what is seen and unseen that culminated ultimately in the resurrection. He overcame death. He no longer required a body to appear in the seen aspect of the fullness of life. Now, Charles Fillmore went on to say, nobody wants to die. And I mean, he actually used the word death in his article, which is unusual for us in Unity, right? We like to say transition. We would all like to overcome death, he said, and we go to great lengths to avoid death with any number of interventions, both spiritual and from medical practitioners. We change our entire lifestyles to avoid death. And in doing so, Charles Fillmore pointed out that sometimes we forget what animates us in the first place, and that's the force of life, the spirit, that which is never-ending, unchanging, and is our essence. that can't be taken away from us. And Jesus, in expressing his divine nature, demonstrated that quite clearly, did he not? So there is a secret sauce. Charles Fillmore in the article actually used the word recipe, and since I had been asking about a secret sauce, I was like, oh, there is a secret sauce. He said that Jesus, the master teacher and the way showers, gave us plenty of examples and ingredients for the recipe of the secret sauce. So let's make this clear, because Charles Fillmore made this clear. None of us would ever intentionally create a world where poverty, suffering, or sorrow exist. Perhaps the best ingredient, Charles Fillmore said, that was in the secret sauce or the recipe was the scripture, "Seek first the kingdom, and all of this will be added unto you." Now let's understand that when Charles Fillmore spoke of the kingdom, he was referring to an internal awareness of the divine, not some external locale, right? So we don't have to enter the kingdom, Charles Fillmore said. We need only seek this internal awareness, right? Oh, pretty cool. We just have to seek it. So in seeking the kingdom, what hopefully happens is we find ourselves in a state of examining our thoughts, feelings, and ideas. Charles Fillmore said that we might be wise to even examine our motivations for seeking the kingdom in the first place. And he said we're likely to find labels that we've placed upon ourselves and need to shed. So we just might find that there are aspects of our lives and our interior world that we would be better off releasing. Charles Fillmore said that this is a time to focus on the divine of our understanding and remember that faith without works is dead. Go within by all means and seek the kingdom. Also, this is a time to listen and use our higher wisdom to know what is ours to do in this time, and then do so with really great heartfelt energy. Charles Fillmore talked about, serving with zeal. So I know that's a lot to take in, and I presented it in a very short amount of time. I invite you, if you want to, go to truthunity.net and noodle around in those archives. So there's a lot of wisdom in there. And I'll just close as Charles Fillmore did in this article, written in a similar time and in many ways similar to our current circumstances. He said, "Seek and you will find. Knock and it will be open to you." I thank you very much for listening. I thank you for this opportunity. Have a wonderfully blessed day. Namaste.
Thank you very much, Birdie, and welcome back to our Unity RGB guest speaker. So now comes a time in our service where we take our tithes, at least mentally, in our heads right now, and we take them in and hold them in our heart, and together we say, "Divine love through me blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive." We thank you all for your continued support of this ministry, Unity RGB, and the mission that we have to expand the awareness of our spiritual beingness, our power that we have as co-creators of the universe. And every time that you give of your finances or of your resources of any kind or of your talents, you are adding to this. And as we always say, it's about giving and receiving. You expand your circle and you create a bigger circle, and the circle keeps getting bigger and bigger, and we reach out further and further. And that's the idea. So for all that you do and all that you give, thank you and bless you. Once again, thank you for joining us today. And we invite you to join us again next week and all the coming weeks until we get back to being in person, at which time we certainly invite you to come join us here at our building here in Florida, Texas. In the meantime, have a blessed week. Stay safe. And if you have not been vaccinated, please do so that we can get on with life and get past this. But it's going to take all of us together. So I invite you to do that if it's your choice to do so. Thank you.